Welcome to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blain. I interview leaders, experts and business professionals from around the world who are bringing leadership principles and know-how into the digitally driven 21st century workplace, with focus firmly on the how-to rather than the what. Each episode is in aid of a charity chosen by my guests, and since 2020, we've made donations to over 80 global and local causes. Welcome to today's Rethink Leadership podcast with my guest Andy Bhattacharyya. He's a sustainability expert and founder of AmploGlobal, a company specialising in digital platforms for ESG reporting and sustainable supply chain management. With over a decade of experience in leveraging tech for environmental impact, Andy helps businesses and leaders navigate the complexities of sustainability and drive meaningful change with meaningful results. He's passionate about integrating AI, IoT, and innovative partnerships to create transparent, efficient, and purpose-driven business models. He's a true thought leader in the field, frequently speaking on sustainable practices, financial and operational benefits. Andy also writes books on business and fiction, reaching into the positive parts of humanity to tell his stories. Andy, thanks very much for joining me. Please introduce yourself, your business, and your passion for purpose in business.
Thank you, Jeremy, for the opportunity to speak to you. It's a pleasure. Brief introduction from my side. I have three versions, I would say. Started my career with supply chain, moved to industrial cognitive manufacturing, and then I'm purely working on, I would say, sustainable living projects, eat, sleep, drink, sustainability. It's an interesting topic, more than it has two greens, right? The green of the dollar and the green of the green, right? So it merges. That merges sometimes is difficult because not every association sees this as a money flowing business. But what I see, Jeremy, is it's not only money flowing business, it's also a purpose-led business, right? So for me, from childhood, I've always been questioning myself, the purpose of living, purpose of life. And finally, in 2019, 2020, I found this purpose to start my own startup. Right now, I'm at a position where I am running this organization, I would say, more as a founder member and chairman. But the organization is divided into four regions: South America, North America, Europe, UK, and Indian subcontinent. We have four regional CEOs or regional leaders who are running the P&L of each continent. It sounds big, but we are not that big, but we have like 4 or 5 programs going on in each continent. Climate technology is very new, I would say. If you really see the whole gamut of sustainability, it's climate, water, energy, whole environment. You have the carbon accounting, you have the reporting, right? 3 broad buckets. So generally in carbon accounting and reporting, there's a lot of federation going on. There's a lot of companies. Climate technology is very new. Environmental risk analysis is very new. I feel that it is nothing but a broader supply chain. So that exactly suits my background, where I founded the company. Before founding this company, I was with all the consulting and a little stint in Wall Street for 2.5 years in Blackstone. So that's a bit of my professional background. Also introduced the company as well, AmploGlobal. I'm an avid author. I have books, both business and fiction. I teach locally here in New Jersey at Rutgers as an adjunct, and also in Indian subcontinent. It's called Indian School of Business. And also I run a anti-sex trafficking organization from India-Nepal border. So I have books around that as well. A little bit of what I do between work and non-work, all are purpose-led. That's a little bit about myself.
Wow, that's quite a broad reach. And just if I consider that we need more leaders who are forces for good, then I can place you at the center of that with what you've just explained to me. And go ahead.
And Jeremy, you know what? If you really see the 4 things I do, like climate, teaching, writing, and nonprofit, They're all purpose-led. So for me, it is a dot. For me, it is not many things or four things. It's a dot, the dot of truth, right? So that's I would say that for the lack of better words.
I think that resonates strongly with me for sure. And if I zero in on your core business leadership and what you've set up here as well, is that you're doing something which many leaders are struggling with in their journey of being forces for the greatest good, if you like. That's having the digital platforms for ESG reporting, sustainable supply chain management, as you were talking about there as well. And that's at the very heart of how organizations and leaders actually need to transform for not just the workplace, but for a better world. So what do you say to leaders who ask you, well, why is this important for me to grab hold of? And for those that understand that, how are they actually doing it?
If you're specifically asking about sustainability, environmental, climate technology, if that's the area you want me to hone in, look, this is an interesting business area. This is something where I feel we all need to understand supply chain, need to understand manufacturing, also on one side. And on the other side, we also need to understand the financial part of it, right? The whole financial impact, not only from a supply chain perspective, manufacturing perspective, but also finance investment perspective, right? It's about so what I have seen in the overall sustainability transformation agenda, and I'm not just talking data collection, carbon accounting and reporting. I'm talking more of a broader transformation, which should be the agenda for the CIOs and the CTOs and the CSOs as well, maybe all CXOs, right? That if I have five agenda in my realm of my one fiscal year, one of them should be sustainable transformation. And this is just not carbon accounting and reporting. How do you improve your climate finance? How do you improve your supply chain? How do you improve your investment strategy? How do you improve your market entry? It all impacts based on the decision you make on how sustainability should sit in your DNA. And it's also a culture, right? So to answer your question, like how I'm in action while others are, you said, and I don't want to say this loud, but I don't think we all are struggling. Not only others are struggling, I'm also struggling, right? It's about how do you figure this out to really make a prime time agenda? That's what the needle is right now, right? There are some companies who are really doing it very well. Some companies are thinking, some companies are not even thinking, right? How do you all think? There was a time where enterprise resource planning came into play in our ecosystem, early 90s, early 2000s, right? Now everybody does enterprise resource planning. Then came the whole wave of data. Everybody does data now. Then this whole sustainability has to be a wave where everybody does it. The mantra, the magic on this one is in every step you do, in every move you make, every breath you take, the song I'm thinking, right? Okay. The green people, the earth, the environment is watching you, right? So making a ethical supply chain, making an ethical business model is, I think, it's an extremely important factor. You would emit 15 kilotons of carbon and you make a product. Is this something I should buy? I mean, for me, it's an easy decision. I would not buy it, but not for everyone else because it's business, it's dollars, it's capitalism, right? So that's where I feel like making a connection with balance sheet, cash flow, income statement, everything you do, which impacts your top line and bottom line, the story becomes more stronger. And that's what we are doing at AmploGlobal. That's what I'm doing. I'm mentoring a few CEOs right now also on this, right? As an advisor. So connection between balance sheet, cash flow, income statement with your scope one, two, three, four, as we call it in our language of sustainability, is the mantra. Once you connect, no CEO will say no. No leader will say no. That's where a messenger like us have to be there up in the States to say, here is what a better supply chain would look like. Here's a better manufacturing would look like. here's a better investment looks like. I'll take a pause.
Well, that's great. And I think for many leaders who are tuning in, they'll want me to ask this question, which is that you've just described exactly what I need it to do so that I can jump right in and get behind this. So, what are some of the success stories of you that you've had, and can you explain the process that you go through as far as working with the leaders to help them see this, and then reconfiguring the organization and their business models so that they have that sustainability front and center as much as the bottom line, the green with the dollar, the green with the land, as you said.
Absolutely. So the first thing I will say this, how global or how local the organization is the first method to the madness, right? If it's global, that's a serious agenda. Sustainability is a serious agenda. If it's local, it may not be the serious or the first agenda in a local CEO's mind, but the local CEO will tell me, Andy, look, at the end of the day, I need to be acquired in the larger scheme of thing. For acquisition, I need to be sustainable. When I go to Wall Street or somewhere, I need to have the ESG report done very nicely, right? Now, let's double click on that. I just want to do the ESG report and get my things done, just collect 2, 3 data and get the report out. Or while I'm doing the reporting, I also think broader and say, you know what? I should actually change the supply chain based on this data I see now. It affects me, right? That's where a leader like us will be very impactful, right? When you take an inverted A or a V, you start for reporting and then you get into transformation for smaller companies, or for larger companies, it's already A, right? It starts from the top, right? Every angle of business unit should be sustainable, right? It's not only the regulatory compliance that I'm driving to, it's a change in the way I work, right? So that's where I will say that it depends on when am working with the CEOs, I'm actually understanding their pulses. What is their first goal in the next 24 months? Is acquisition, exit, data strategy, digitization? What's his or her theirs acumen? And that's where I punch in that, okay, you know what? If you don't do sustainability, your acquisition will not happen, right? So I'm just giving some examples, right? That where understand the pulse of the CEO and the goal of the company is very important. That's where you will navigate and say, sustainability should be in your prime agenda. And sometimes I say this, sustainability is just like an ice cream. Even if your tummy is full, it will take the space. It will get inside, all right? Sustainability is like that. Once you start eating sustainability, it will get into the space of supply chain, get into the negotiation with the union workers, get in the space of manufacturing. And once you start 1, 2, 3, 4 plants, you will see the benefit of the product quality, the customer stickiness, the greener outcomes automatically becomes a practice of sustainable supply chain, value chain. That's how I see it.
And going back to something that you said before, is that it moves away from that checkbox approach to it, isn't it? Of I'll focus on my reporting measures rather than doing it, to the delivery of the promise itself that I'm making. So let me go beyond a checkbox into the action and let me reap the rewards from that, rather than stopping at that point where I know that I can make progress. Which I understand you very, very well, using the police and every breath you take as your mantra for that, and doing it kind of every step, every day, every way. But most of all, I like the analogy around the ice cream. No matter how full we are on our agenda, we can always make room for something that we want to do. So it's making that a want to do because it has that impact on the bottom line as well as the top line, right?
100%, 100%. And every time we need to figure out, whenever we are walking into a conversation, is it connecting to my supplier risk, bottom line, sales, revenue, market entry, where this conversation is going, right? That broader KPIs need to be thought through. And once that is thought through, implementation is the next 90 days, 180 days agenda. So that's what's very important, to align with the vision, mission. And sometimes the CEO also wants to be coached that, look, Andy, what you're seeing outside, what are you missing if I don't do it? That's also an opportunity, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And therefore, those leaders that you've worked with, that you've moved that mindset shift, if you like, and they bought into it. What are the benefits that they have realized from actually committing to this in action terms and delivery terms rather than just reporting terms?
Net promotion score, right off the bat. Heavy improvement in customer service, customer centricity, millennial Gen Z's traction as a brand. It's brand traction. At the end of the day, it is about product selling, right? So we worked with a retail company based out of India where cotton circularity was a big motion. It was a big motion, right? That okay, the clothes you and I are wearing then need to be refurbished rather than buying fresh cotton, which means that less expense on the first end cotton. Figuring out the quality remains the same with the clothes that you and I are wearing, what kind of yarning that needs to be done or re-yarning needs to be done. A great example where it is always the conversation going on. Look, this will improve my supply chain, this will cut down my cost, and also I know people will be more attracted to this brand. So find out time to understand the consumer behavior, okay, which we call green closet, right? Understand the time to see that how many people will like a green closet, how many people will actually get into a shopping mall in a grocery and would not buy food in excess, right? People are becoming more aware. So think about the shift of the mindset, which is intangible, right? Besides the tangible conversations of balance sheet and income statement and cash flow. There's an intangible thing going on in people's head that, oh, okay, I will always go to Tesco because I love this brand, and I will make sure that I take this because somehow, whenever I consume this brand, I never waste the food, right? So how conscious buyer you are, who are buyers, right? It's very important to understand who is your audience. So commitment of sustainable programs are also very important to realize your consumer behavior.
Yeah, and as you're saying, that's the intentional action from customers and consumers that are buying into something beyond having a cereal or a food or a product or a service or whatever it is. It's that company credentials. And I'm guessing that that's where the B Corp movement has kind of started from. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's where we are seeing that movement, and also at the same time, I feel that every organization is now focusing on corporate sustainability, like excess food, how to manage the waste, right? How to manage the landfills, right? Yes, absolutely. Where we see the B Corp certificates are coming into play, that I'm B Corp, right? So yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So we've talked about the leaders, but obviously everybody needs to be involved in this. So how should this sustainability play be, or how can it be integrated into culture building across the organizations?
Great question. Great question. So if you really see from a sustainability perspective, right, you have environmental, social, and governance. So G has always been a spearheading topic for any leader, for any organization. Governance is always there, has been there. What's new? The new is how do you merge governance, risk, and compliance along with sustainability? That's a new normal, right? S, that's culture you're talking about. I give speeches to in various organizations, and I get to hear, Andy, look, for us, hiring more women workers is actually diversity. I said, are you kidding me? Just hiring women workers is diversity? Diversity is much more than that, right? So it's not just having an equity between women and men. Where is the LGBTQ community coming into place? How are you bringing all them together? How are you blurring the industry lines, right? It's a cultural mindset. It's a mindset that diversity, equity, and inclusion should be in the DNA of the leaders, right? And guess what? Some of the organizations are measuring the success of their projects between a team which is not diverse and a team which is diverse. And we are getting a lot of these analysis done through, let's say, the advisory firms and the benchmarking firms. We do benchmarking as well, and we have done some diversity, equity, inclusion programs, though we focus on E, environment, climate a lot, but we have done some S and G as well. So what we have seen that when it's a diverse portfolio, ideas, equity building, innovation, which is ideas, first and third are similar. Project being successful is at a more higher quotient than just being very one type of audience-driven project where comes autocracy and patriarchy, right? So how do you balance that out? So that's where we have seen that a diverse portfolio is always a better portfolio to run a program, a direct measure of your S into your bottom line or top line, right? Because you do projects which are revenue-driven projects, right? And if you have an S in your mind, just social, culture, that's where we see a direct correlation of your bottom line, top line. So what I'm doing in this conversation, I'm continuously thinking, anything that I'm responding, how do you convert into a bottom line and top line, right? Even S. How many people measure S with bottom line, top line? Hardly anyone, right? But we are. I'm seeing that S as social is directly impacting your bottom line, top line. We are doing automotive battery circularity programs where we get lithium from mines, and in mines of this child slavery, suppliers are really worried that they should do a better job in managing the child slavery and suicides and everything in the mines, right? Because the consumer is saying, I'm not going to take the lithium from you because my OEM is not buying batteries from us anymore because we're not doing a good job in understanding what's your social condition is, and I should do a better job. Why people are dying in your minds, right? It's purpose-led, but it really impacts the value chain.
Certainly does, but it impacts the value chain and the people chain, doesn't it? And the more voices are loudly shouting this from the rafters and getting involved, then the better the organization becomes. And clearly for the clients and customers, it's a better experience, right?
100%. It's at the end is experience, right?
Mm.
That's where we always focus on what's experience looks like, right? And there's a direct, tangible correlation between experience and dollars and experience and money. Yep.
So, so for those tuning in, Andy, say, I'm really not doing enough on this, then there will be a lot of people that will be in that camp. Um, what would you advise as sort of the three biggest must-dos, if you like, to get on that road and be more purposeful about purpose?
The first thing is about, I feel everything should be customer led. It's a loaded statement. I know
Mm.
that, but it has to be customer led.
Mm.
If customer doesn't want to do sustainability, absolutely it is okay. Let him or her they go, and you go for the next endeavor because we would want to stick around in climate tech. So customer led. No offense, nothing. Once a customer agreeing, what customer is wanting is very important, right? Customer led. The second thing that I will say is the feasibility to scale. Quickly realize that will this program scale or will this program will not scale? Now I already have overcome the first point. I'm in the environmental tech. So now once I'm okay that my leaders have support on this, I know the leader supports on climate tech. My second journey would be to see that if I can scale this. Very important, right? The third thing I would say is once I scale it, how can I take this and propagate this to suppliers and distributors of that organization? So you create the value chain, blur the industry lines if possible a little bit, and bring more digitization and really bring like shepherd people in with you. It's all about shepherding the people within the organization or outside the organization. Even if I'm negotiating with a supplier, it's shepherding people, right? I feel this is a great tool to do that, right? I feel that once you have a leadership support, once you know that you can scale this, just scale it. So that will be my 3 stages of sensing a business model, right? Is the leader supportive? Can I scale it? When I scale it, am I impacting the whole value chain? That's my mantra.
And then, of course, I presume you would build the measures in from day one rather than at the end on that
And that's a
mapping.
fantastic thing I missed, right? So it's a great point, right? So how can you measure all this from day one? So it has to be, when I say customer led, it's also KPI led, right? Thank you for the point, right? I like it. So it's how do you measure it, right? How can I even forget that? It's how do you measure it, right? All these stages that you're delivering, how do you measure it will be extremely critical. That's where your clarity of your, I call it a numerator and a denominator of the KPIs are important. That brings clarity by business unit. That brings clarity by business areas that you want to get into, because at the end, you have to measure it. And that's where I think we as a whole in the climate tech, we're doing better and better and better. We are able to measure it now. Yeah.
So, one last question for you, Andy, then. What would be your one big wake up call that you'd like to grab some leaders by that just aren't getting this and say, you must do this? What's the wake up call for them?
And maybe I will pick it back on the last point. I will take 5 or 6 KPIs in my palm, and I will show to leaders that, look, your competitor is having more market share than you just because they're managing their waste better or landfill better. So my wake-up call will be for the other leaders is a KPI-driven conversation. That's what I will really leave the universe in peace, right? It's about, here's the KPI. You're not doing the right thing. You're losing your market share, and see what your competition is doing. It's proof it is in the pudding, right? As we say it.
Is it numbers talk, right?
Numbers talk, right?
Well, look, it's such an important topic, Andy, and thank you very much for being so open in your sharing. So, for those who are listening that may want to continue the conversation with you, find out more about your company, about what you do, and how you can help them, how do they find out more and get in touch?
Yeah, it is. So I have an email address, which is my first name. I go by Andy, but it's Anirban, ANIRBAN at AmploGlobal.com. It's AmploGlobal.com is our website. I'm on LinkedIn. That's how we will stay in touch. And of course, I'm always there to come back to the podcast, talk more about it. Yeah, that's how we'll stay in touch.
Well, we'll make sure for those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see those on the screen right now. For those on Spotify and Apple, they'll be in the show notes for you so that you can connect with Andy on LinkedIn. You can find out more about how him and this wonderful network in his organization is changing the game from this transformative sustainability within organizations. So, Andy, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blain. Please like, comment, and support us on your favourite platform, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch as well as listen to each episode.